Welcome to Confessions of a GroupX Instructor podcast, Nashville Hotel Edition. We just finished our Core Health and Fitness Music City FitCon experience, and it was our last stop of the 2023 calendar year as a Warrior instructor team, and it was pretty darn fun. We presented all five of our formats. So no kids. We don't present kids at these things, but we presented our Roots program for the very first time, which is exciting. That's our chair-based program. And then we had rhythm and strength and combat and revolution. So super fun to be back in Nashville. And I have a short, sweet little podcast for you about how to make a great Group X schedule. That's what I'm going to be talking to you about tonight, but I'm going to do it quickly because I have plans tonight. I'm going to see Frank Sinatra. Well, there's this Frank Sinatra bar and these amazing Frank Sinatra impersonators and singers that come around to the table and all that stuff. So I got to be quick and to the point. And so let's dive in. Well, first of all, if you have the luxury of starting from scratch, I'm going to give my tips. And then some of you might have a schedule that you feel like is already a mess and you don't know how to fix it. And so I'll kind of address it from both angles, starting with like if you happen to have a blank slate and you're just starting from scratch. Also, I have my dog here with me, Fig, Big Fig, Big Fig with the pig. Biggie Smalls, Diva says. So we brought him. He was like actually the highlight of Nashville. He was the superstar of the conference, and he sat in his little travel bag at the front of the stage during all of our sessions. So if you haven't yet gone over to, well, actually, I haven't curated all the content yet. So I don't know at the time you'll be hearing this message based on when I curate the content, but you're going to be seeing some darling content of us presenting sessions with the cutest little whippet in the world on stage with us, and his name's Fig. So, all right, let's dive in. So first, if you are creating a schedule from scratch, the number one, and the order of this matters, the order of these points is important. So the first thing to do is identify or make sure you're aware of the prime times, like where is the club traffic high? When are people using your club? Like one of the clubs I teach at, the Downtown Athletic Club, because it is like downtown, it mostly attracts downtown business folks that work downtown. And so a lot of our club usage happens during the lunch hour, more than I would think in other locations. So if you just are able to access those reports, run those reports, club usage and club traffic patterns is important. And there's high-tech software out there too that tracks patterns. But also, if you just use common sense, people come to the club before work. So that 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m. is considered prime time for your people that want to work out before they go to work. Then 9 a.m. is also a prime time that tends to attract moms that drop their kids off at school and want to go get their workout out of the way on their way home. So 9 a.m. is a prime time. Noon, lunch hour classes is prime time. So 12 o'clock, prime time. And then after work, of course, is prime time, except on Friday nights. People don't want to come to the club on Friday nights unless you have some strange anomaly situation. Friday night class is not usually a great time spot, but prime time Monday through Thursday night. So 5:30 p.m. or 6 p.m. in that ballpark. And then, of course, Saturday morning, even Sunday morning, sometimes mind body yoga type classes work well. So identifying your prime times is step number one, blocking out when you want to have classes. Then step two, I would make some buckets or categorize the types of formats you're offering. And I'm sure if you've been listening to the show for long, you've heard this before, but in case you haven't heard me say this before, I think it's important to have a mix of some pre-choreographed content, some trademark stuff, some brands that attract people because they know, love, and trust those brands, like Zumba or Body Pump or Pound or something, that they're familiar with. I think it's important to have some pre-choreographed content and some unique stuff, some that your instructors are creating that's freestyle and really unique. Mix, a nice blend. So then taking those formats and putting them in buckets. So, for example, some buckets I would encourage, and yours can be slightly different than this, and depending on your space. And like, for example, if you don't have bikes in your studio, you wouldn't have a bucket for cycle. But some general categories would be your HIIT, your higher intensity, um, higher impact type formats. So like a HIIT bucket, dance type formats. And these can bleed into other like little, like these can be general buckets. Like in the dance category, you could put Pound, for example, possibly, or Elevate, or a really rhythmic bar class or something like that, where music is a key component. I would even consider my Warrior Rhythm format something that you would put in that bucket, like where people that love to move to music go to class. So your HIIT bucket, your higher intensity athletes, your dance or music, key component bucket, then your mind body bucket. So yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, Qigong, stuff like that. And then cycle, although cycle could also fit under the HIIT category if you wanted it to. So some of these buckets you can kind of make, customize. Your active aging, things that would appeal to your senior population and your special populations. So a bucket there that could include water aerobics if you have a pool at your facility. And then finally, your weightlifting, your lifting formats. All right. So again, some of the things aren't going to fit neatly into one of those, but your general categories is important. Then once you have your prime times blocked out and your categories identified with which formats fit where in those general buckets, I would recommend maybe color coding those buckets, like your high intensity HIIT classes, maybe red. Like red, like hot and sweaty. So color code your buckets and then think about those time slots and where you would want to put what. Like, for example, Sundays are great for mind body. So if you've color coded that bucket purple, put a purple block maybe on Sundays at 10:15 in the morning or 9 a.m. or something like that. Let's see about color coding. Thinking people are going to want to get some strength training in after work. They're going to want to get some strength training in at that 9 a.m. They're going to want to get some strength training in at that early before work, some cardio, so some HIIT, maybe some cycle, and really kind of balance out, spread out in a way that makes sense, so that it looks like a rainbow in there on your calendar. Now, you don't have to have equal amount of colors. It doesn't have to be an equal amount of HIIT to mind body to dance to it, because that can relate more to the appetite of your members. So not all clubs are the same, and not all memberships are the bases are the same. So some clubs are like really into dance, and some clubs are really into mind body and yoga. So it doesn't have to be equal where you place those, but spread them out in a way that makes sense. Okay, number 3, back on the number 1, the prime time, I forgot to say mid-morning. If you have the budget for some other classes beside those hardcore prime times, there's also some other like mid-mornings, 10:15, 10:30 a.m., 1 p.m., like a late lunch hour. Also, if you have the demand, some after work after that 5:30 or 6 p.m. time slots. So something more like at the 7 o'clock hour, again, depending on demand, can be nice too, like slightly off peak times. Okay, like no classes, 3 p.m. on a Sunday. That kind of thing. All right, so back to then you have your color code, then complementary formats. For example, Tuesday, Thursday weightlifting, or Monday, Wednesday weightlifting. Oh, that's my timer going off saying hurry up. Frank Sinatra is waiting. All right. So number 4, after you've kind of figured out complementary formats on the schedule and where they would go, Tuesday, Thursday night, Monday, Wednesday night, Monday, Wednesday, Friday lunch hour, classes that complement nicely. After you've done that, that was step number 3. Step number 4 is to like identify your talent. Who are your instructors? When are they available to teach, and what do they teach? And I'm no longer a fitness director because my life is too crazy with Warrior full time. But when I was a director, I like to ask all my instructors, if you could wave a magic wand, when would you teach? What is the perfect schedule for you? I liked knowing that about all of them. So kind of getting a grip on your talent. Who are your instructors? What do they teach? And when are they available is step number 4. Remember, the order of this matters. Don't start there. You want to start by having a perfect dream schedule template and then plug in the talent. All right. So I'm going to get into some minutia and kind of wrap things up quickly. If you already have a schedule, the gaps in it. If you don't have gaps in it, create gaps in it. And what I'm talking about is like the 15 minutes between classes. I know there's a temptation sometimes for clubs to have classes like on the hour perfectly neatly, so it looks neat on a cell, like classes at 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and 1. But if you are omitting time for your instructors to get properly set up, catch their breath, meet and manage the expectations and welcome the new members and have bonding magical moments right after class with your students, then you're robbing your program of the most important magical part of group fitness, which is the community piece, because most of that magic of community is built right before class and especially right after the class. Not to mention that setup time is so important. So if you are hellbound and determined as a group fitness director or manager or owner operator to have classes at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. on the hour, then you're going to be wanting to run 45-minute classes. 50 max. Okay. But not back to back. It's so stressful. And everyone comes in with their hair on fire. Everyone's leaving with their hair on fire, and nobody's able to make magical connections before and after. Okay, moving on. Frank Sinatra's coming. Frank Sinatra, let's go. So keep or create gaps. Go for a galaxy. So if you have a rock star instructor that wants to teach Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m., it would be better if you mixed in some other talent in there too. Maybe give that rock star one of those days. 2 max, but you don't want to have one instructor dominate a time slot, because what if they get injured? What if they take a maternity leave? What if they move? What if they quit? And then the whole entire time slot could get wiped out. It's better to have fortify it with some other talent in there. And it's better for the members too, to be learning from other instructors and other styles. So try to avoid the temptation to give rockstar instructors the monopoly on any single time slot. Spread it out, create a galaxy and not a star, not individual stars, I should say. Another tip is you can survey the members to find out what they are most interested in. Keep in mind that sometimes members don't even really know what's best for them or what they might love the most, but it is important to survey them and to ask how long do they like their classes, what formats do they like, what time of day do they like to work out, that kind of thing. But again, you might know as a group fitness director or manager, like something that they would love that they've never been exposed to. So always trust your gut. Okay. So then build for the future. And this has to do with like also not letting all your rock star instructors or your veteran instructors, maybe they're your most popular instructors because they've been around forever, always have the future in mind. So take some chances on some new talent, some raw talent, some new instructors that you believe in, giving them some chances in those prime time slots and building them up. All right, moving on and almost finished. Maintain control of your schedule. And to do this, you have to have a robust team of instructors. Where you can get your back up against a wall is when your team is too thin. You don't have a big, strong, robust team of talent. And then you have instructors that might be giving you ultimatums like, I'll only do this class if you give me this one too, or I'll only do those classes if you give me a pay raise. And by the way, I do think instructors are generally underpaid and deserve more money. So this isn't about, an, this isn't in any stretch about saying instructors shouldn't want more money because I think they deserve more money. But I don't think it's cool when a manager is in a position where they're given an ultimatum because they didn't have a staff that they could be like, if you can't do it, then we'll have so and so else, so and so do it. So keep control. We had a situation where I was actually an amazing instructor, and this is before I was a director. But when I took over, the schedule had weird things happening on the schedule. Like an instructor would be teaching at 10:30 on one day, and the complement to that class a couple days later was at 10:45. How weird is that? One at 10:30 and one at 10:45. That was best for that instructor's schedule, but clearly not best for members. So again, you need to maintain control and not let the instructors end up dictating where they go, how much they get paid, how much, all that stuff. So keep control. You're the boss, but you can't do it if your team gets too thin. All right. And then, if you don't have the luxury of like creating a schedule from scratch and you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, my schedule's a mess. What do I do now? Well, you can't really easily just change it overnight, without upsetting the whole entire apple cart, members and instructors included. So I don't recommend anything drastic. If you're watching on YouTube, sorry about my crazy fingernail. I broke it on the way here. So if you have a messy schedule and you're like, oh, it's unbalanced, and I have stars and not a galaxy, and I have these weird mismatchy time slots, and the formats don't really make sense at where I have them, and all this stuff. What do I do? So you have to be opportunistic about as people leave. And as you're refining at those seasonal times of year, always kind of scaling back classes in the summer, always adding in new formats in the fall and especially the new year, that you're taking opportunities to make corrections that will kind of align with the tips that I listed already. So quick recap, because I got to go. If you are starting from scratch, it's prime times first. Categorize the modalities and figure out where you want the modalities and how much of each modality you want on the schedule, and then plug in the instructors once you know their specialties, their availability, and their interest and commitment to time slots. And make sure you're putting complementary formats, of course, in there. Keep gaps in the schedule. Go for Galaxy. Survey your members. You can do that annually, semi-annually. I think quarterly is a bit white noise-ish, but and then build for the future. Take some chances on some raw talent and mix up the blood in there. So it's not always just the veterans in there at those prime times, those best boardwalk and park place classes, and then maintain control as the boss and keep a large team so that you can stay in control of the schedule that you want. Okay, everybody, that's all I've got for you tonight from Nashville. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure you share the show, that you rate the show, that you follow Confessions of a GroupX Instructor on Instagram, and all that jazz. Have a great week. Happy teaching.